The rain poured down hard that night, blurring the yellow streetlights into streaks of gold on the windshield. Mia tightened her grip on the steering wheel, her knuckles pale in the glow of the dashboard. She had just finished her late shift at the small diner downtown and was exhausted, her body aching, her heart heavier than the soaked sky above. All she wanted was to get home, check on her sleeping daughter, and collapse into bed. But life had a way of surprising her when she least expected it. At the corner outside an upscale bar, she spotted him. A man in an expensive-looking suit stumbling on the curb, clearly drunk, nearly toppling into the street. Cars honked angrily as he swayed dangerously close to traffic. Mia's heart clenched. She didn't know why, but she pulled over. Maybe it was her natural instinct to help, or maybe it was because she knew what it felt like to be abandoned when you were vulnerable. She stepped out into the rain. "Sir, are you okay?" she called out. He looked up at her with bleary eyes, handsome features blurred by alcohol and sorrow. His tie hung loose around his neck, his hair damp and messy. He laughed bitterly. "Do I look okay?" His voice carried the weight of someone who'd lost more than just sobriety. "Where do you live?" she asked cautiously. "You can't stay out here like this." He blinked at her, clearly trying to focus. "Home, yes, but no one's there waiting for me anyway." He slumped against the wall. Against her better judgment, Mia offered, "I'll drive you." "Come on." He hesitated, then allowed her to guide him into her old car. The leather seats creaked under his weight. As she drove through the storm, the smell of expensive cologne mixed with alcohol filled the air. He stared out the window, quiet for most of the ride until he suddenly spoke. "You shouldn't help strangers. It's dangerous," he muttered. She gave a faint smile. "Maybe, but sometimes strangers need kindness the most." The man glanced at her, as if the words had struck something deep inside him. He told her his address. It was in the wealthiest part of town, a mansion behind iron gates. When they pulled up, Mia couldn't help but feel out of place, her battered car parked in front of a palace. She helped him inside, steadying him as he fumbled with his keys. "Thank you," he said softly before collapsing onto the couch. She left him a glass of water on the table and quietly slipped out. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Mia never expected to see him again. But a week later, the same man walked into the diner where she worked. He was sober this time, his hair neatly styled, his suit sharp, and his presence commanding. Heads turned as he entered, but his eyes sought only her. "You," he said simply, as though he'd been searching. Mia froze, holding a tray of coffee cups. "Do you remember me?" "I do. You drove me home. I never thanked you properly." He extended his hand. "I'm Adrian Cole." Her eyes widened. Adrian Cole, the CEO of one of the biggest real estate firms in the city. His name was often in the news, always associated with success, wealth, and power. Yet here he was, speaking to her as though she mattered. "Mia," she said quietly, shaking his hand. He studied her. "Let me buy you dinner. To repay you." Mia almost laughed. "I don't think I belong in your world, Mr. Cole." "Then let me step into yours," he replied without missing a beat. Two different worlds. Dinner turned into coffee, and coffee turned into long conversations after Mia's shifts. Adrian learned about her struggles, how her husband had walked out on her when their daughter Lily was just a baby, leaving her to work 2 jobs to survive. How she barely had time for herself but gave everything she had to her little girl. In return, Adrian revealed his own scars. His wife had died 2 years ago in a car accident. Since then, he had buried himself in work, wearing his success like armor, but inside he was drowning. The night Mia found him drunk, he had just signed a massive deal, one that should have felt like victory, but he'd gone home to an empty house, and the loneliness had consumed him. They were from different worlds, one a single mom scraping by, the other a billionaire CEO, but in their brokenness, they recognized each other. Soon, Adrian began showing up more often. Sometimes he'd wait for Mia after work, insisting on walking her to her car. Other times, he'd invite her and Lily to the park. Despite her initial hesitation, Mia noticed how gentle he was with her daughter, how his eyes softened every time Lily laughed. For the first time in years, Mia felt seen, not just as a struggling mother, but as a woman. Challenges arise, but life wasn't a fairy tale. The closer they grew, the more challenges they faced. Mia's friends warned her, "Men like him don't stay. Don't let him play with your heart." Her coworkers whispered, questioning why a man of his status would bother with a waitress. Worse, the media eventually caught wind of Adrian spending time with a single mom from the wrong side of town. Headlines mocked her, painting Mia as a gold digger. Paparazzi showed up at her diner, flashing cameras in her face. "I can't do this," Mia cried one night after seeing the cruel headlines. "This is destroying my life. Lily doesn't deserve this." Adrian held her hands firmly. "Listen to me, none of that matters. You're not a gold digger. You saved me when you had nothing to gain. You've given me more than all my wealth combined." His voice broke. "Don't walk away because of them." But Mia also feared for Lily. She worried about exposing her daughter to a world of wealth and scrutiny. Could Adrian truly love them both, or would Lily just be a burden in his glamorous life? Adrian's struggle. Adrian, too, battled his own demons. His board of directors disapproved, warning that his reputation could take a hit. "Investors won't like this distraction," they told him coldly. Some even pressured him to end things. He also carried guilt over his late wife. Could he truly move on without betraying her memory? Some nights he stared at her photograph, torn between the past he couldn't change and the future he longed to build. But every time he saw Mia, her resilience, her kindness, her laughter despite hardships, he knew. She wasn't replacing his wife. She was healing a part of him he thought would remain shattered forever. One evening, Mia's daughter Lily fell ill with a high fever. Mia panicked, rushing her to the hospital. Adrian dropped everything, meeting her there within minutes. He stayed by Lily's side all night, bringing food for Mia, comforting her when she cried. When Lily finally recovered, Mia realized something. Adrian wasn't just in her life, he was becoming part of her family. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered to him one night. He looked at her, his eyes steady. "Because you and Lily, you're my home now." Overcoming the storm, they still faced storms, disapproving voices, doubts, fears, but together, they stood stronger. Adrian began using his influence to protect Mia from media harassment, demanding respect for her privacy. Slowly, public perception shifted. People began to admire their unlikely love story, a man who had everything finding happiness not in wealth, but in the heart of a single mother who gave all she had. Mia, once insecure about her place in Adrian's world, began to realize her worth. She wasn't less because of her struggles. In fact, those struggles had made her stronger, more compassionate, more real. And Adrian valued that more than anything. Months later, on a quiet evening, Adrian took Mia and Lily to the same park they had visited many times. Under the setting sun, he knelt on one knee, holding out a ring that sparkled like the hope in his eyes. "Mia, you came into my life when I was lost. You gave me back more than love, you gave me a family. Will you marry me?" Mia's eyes filled with tears. She thought of the nights she cried alone, the days she doubted her worth, the times she wondered if happiness would ever find her again. And now, here it was, kneeling before her with open arms. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, smiling through tears. "Yes." Lily clapped her little hands, shouting, "Mommy, say yes again." They laughed, wrapping each other in a warm embrace that felt like home. Their journey wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was real. Adrian learned that love couldn't be bought, and Mia discovered that sometimes, life gave second chances when you least expected them. Together, they built a life where loneliness no longer ruled, where a little girl grew up surrounded by love, and where two broken souls found healing in each other. And so, the lonely single mom who once drove a drunk CEO home on a stormy night never expected he'd fall for her. But he did, and in doing so, he changed her life, and his own, forever. Final message: sometimes love doesn't come wrapped in perfection. Sometimes it arrives in messy, unexpected moments, like rain-soaked nights and chance encounters. But when it does, it reminds us that no one is too broken to be loved, and no life is too ordinary to be transformed by it. Because in the end, true love isn't about status or wealth, it's about two hearts choosing to heal together, no matter where they started.